Greetings and salutations, my friends. Welcome to a brand new Total War Warhammer 2 guide. Today we are looking at the Skinks of the Lizardmen army. And in the sort of when they're not fighting world of Lizardmen, the Skinks are basically the workhorses. They're more intelligent than the Sauruses. They are basically... Sauruses? Is that plural? Saurus? Saurai? Saurus? Weird tangent. And basically, when they're not fighting, they're the sort of artisans. They're the guys that do all the metalwork. They build the armour and the weapons. They're a bit more skittish. They're not really built for fighting. They're not warriors. They're not spawned as warriors. But they do a job when the Slann need them to. So we're going to look at the four main units of infantry-based Skinks today. So we've got the Skink Cohort, which is your very basic lot. We've got the Skink Cohort with Javelins. We've then got the Skink Skirmishers and the Chameleon Skink, which is the higher-end one. So we're just going to sort of have a chat, look at their abilities and stats, see what we make of them, which ones may be better to go for, what the special abilities are they worth the cost, and all that sort of stuff. So let's start off with your very basic skinkiness. And they are the Skink Cohort, nice and cheap. Basic melee unit. There are 160 warriors in a unit. They are shielded, which obviously protects them from small arms fire from the front-facing arc. And they're also aquatic. Like all Skinks, they're aquatic. I'm not sure how much use that's going to have, how much water there is involved in it, but it basically just means that where other units of small stature struggle to fight and move in shallow water, aquatics units excel. So any water you do have, make use of that, and that goes for all Skinks. So let's have a look at them in a bit more detail. So they're lightly armoured, but they are shielded. They've got leadership, pretty poor, 55. Speed 46, melee attack 20, melee defense 24, weapon strength 25, charge bonus of very little 10, and they can hide in the forest. They have no other they are the most basic sort of unit. You get what you pay for, basically, with these guys. They're armed with cudgels, basically a stick. They don't even get afforded good weapons in this because they are the very basic guys. But we'll move on to the others and sort of see what we make of them, see if it's actually worth upgrading. So the next unit is basically another unit of Skink Cohort, but these guys have Javelins. So as you can see, if we compare the two, there's no difference whatsoever in all their stats. So melee damage is exactly the same. They're also shielded as before. What they do get, obviously, is the Javelins. That each Skink carries 3. They've got a relatively short range of 80, but they do poison attacks. So not the close combat weapons, just the missiles, just the javelins themselves. And obviously poison lasts for 10 seconds, gives the enemy a big debuff. I think, personally, if given the choice, I would always take the javelins over the missile infantry. It just makes them a bit more versatile. These guys aren't really built for fighting anyway, so I think having that little bit of versatility where they can maybe come in from a flank, throw a bunch of poison javelins, especially into a unit that's already in combat, that'll make them debuffed, and then charge in for the fight. I think it's definitely worth the upgrade. You get the same amount of warriors. I think, yeah, for me so far, the Skink Cohorts are ahead. Then we move on to the Skink Skirmishers, and then the more sort of scouty-based dudes, and they've got poisoned blowpipes, which are lovely. Again, they don't carry the shields, obviously, was what they're missing out on, but the rest of the stats are very similar. In fact, they have 5 less leadership than the normal Skinks. They're a tiny bit quicker because they're in a loose formation. Their melee attack is less, and their melee defense is 10 less, quite a big chunk less, as you can see. The weapon strength 25 on normals, 25 again. Less of a charge bonus, but they have the blowpipes, which is, and they've got 26 shots, so they've got plenty of ammunition, slightly less range than javelin, so again, very short range, and their missile damage is slightly less than the javelin attacks, but obviously they can shoot a lot more. The biggest strength of these guys is obviously vanguard deployment, so they can deploy much further forward outside your normal deployment zone. They can also hide in forest, and really nice little touch with this is that they can fire whilst moving, so that you can continue to sort of back away from another infantry unit firing all the time. That's really important. That's one of the biggest bonuses. Obviously this unit is 40 less guys, which is a little bit of a bummer. But But the Vanguard deployment's nice. I like the fire learn to speak, Loki. Fire whilst moving is very, very nice. I'd be tempted to take maybe just 1 or 2 units of this. Just more of an annoyance than anything, because obviously with that poison damage being a debuff, if you think of it as being able to just shoot once into an enemy unit that's in combat with some of your Saurus, and just to give them that debuff, you know, it's a big debuff again, and then just, you know, shoot at the next guy, make it so the enemy has to deal with them. I'd probably take 1 or 2 of these units just to be that annoyance. And then you've got finally you've got the Chameleon Skinks, who are the most expensive. They are the smallest unit, only 90 guys. They also carry blowpipes. Lizardmen in general are born in spawning pools, and what happens is the skinks that come out become these artisans that what we've met before, these guys, and the builders. But occasionally when you get a spawn, you might have a slightly more aggressive one, and these become Chameleon Skinks. So they're very much sort of like the Skirmishers, except that they have a special of extra rules. If we look at the stats compared, so they have better leadership, up to a hefty 58. Their speed is the same as the Skirmishers. Their melee attack also is poisonous, whereas the Skirmishers is not. So that's a big deal as well. Although how much combat you want to get them into, I'm not really sure. But it's still definitely a benefit. And they do 20 damage instead, melee attack of 20 instead of 16. Their defense is a load better, twice as good as the Skirmishers. Their weapon strength is the same. Their charge bonus is 2 more, nobody cares. Ammunition, same amount of shots, 26. Then they've got a slightly better range. Have they got more powerful mouths? I guess. Maybe their blowpipes are a bit better made. And their missile damage is 23, so quite a bit more missile damage. But again, they don't do neither of these do a massive amount of damage. It's more about the poison effect that you get on the enemies. So, but it's nice that the chameleons can do a bit more damage. They have the added benefit of, because of their chameleon-like skin, being able to change colours to match their surroundings. They have a missile resistance of 40%. Remember, the skirmishers don't have shields, so that is really nice. You're not just going to be destroyed by a bunch of high elf archers. They also have the Vanguard deployment. They can fire whilst moving, which is lovely. But they can also have the stalk ability, which is the unit can move hidden in any terrain. Obviously, being chameleons and that. So, I like that. I'm not a massive fan of these. The standard, bog standard skink cohort. They're not really built for fighting. They can pile in, or they could be used to just sort of, just annoy the enemy, or drag an enemy unit out of position to have to deal with them, that sort of thing. I think out of these two, like 100%, I'd go with the Skink Cohort with the Javelins. They're a little bit more expensive, of course, but they've got those 3 poisonous Javelins, which make a huge difference, and the rest of the stats are exactly the same. So they can still fight just as well in combat, so you're not really losing anything there. And then, obviously, these guys perform a different role. Obviously, the Chameleon Skinks are more expensive. I would go with the Chameleon Skinks just because of, just mainly because of the what's it called? They just called it missile resistance. Have they not given it Chameleon? They called it Chameleon. Genius naming there. Because of that 40% missile resistance, that means that they can sit on the edge of a battle and still fire in and not just get murdered. Remember, they're low hit points, these guys, and they've got not very good armor. And morale is pretty low, so anytime you take a bit of damage from shooting, they're going to break quite quickly. You can't really rely on them. So I actually prefer, especially for scouting and stuff, being able to move hidden and all that sort of stuff, I'm going to go for Chameleon Skinks all day. I might have a unit of skirmishers, but for me, I'm probably not going to use Skink Cohorts at all, apart from, obviously, early game when you don't have much money. I think the fighting should be done by the Saurus, right? And so these should be skirting around the edges of the battle, trying to get in some poisonous attacks and stuff like that, and that gives it. Overall, I'd say actually this is probably my favourite unit because it still can fight a little bit. You don't want to use it as your main meat shield, but you can fire in a few javelins just to weaken, debuff the enemy that's already fighting, and then charge in a flank just to provide a bit more of a finishing blow. And the shields obviously protect against missile fire. So I'm going to pick the Skink Cohorts and the Chameleon Skinks as my unit of choice. Let me know what you think of the Skinks in this game. Obviously, I'm going to be doing all the units for each army. Lizardmen is my favourite. I've been collecting I collected Games Workshop for like 15 years. Lizardmen is my most favourite army, so I'm going to be doing all the unit guides for these guys, and then obviously all the Dark Elves, High Elves, and all the Skaven as well. My second favourite army, the Skaven. So go and check out those. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more, and thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.